Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Kieran. I help people using a spiritual perspective. Now, today's video, whatever it may be titled, probably something with English words, is really inspired by the fact that every time I try to change, I can't. Maybe you understand this familiar situation. Uh, every time that you maybe try to go on a diet, that's a very popular one, and doesn't work out, or anytime that you said you're going to stop a bad habit, for example, things of that nature, right? Not necessarily this gradual change. I think people do change gradually over time, for better or for worse. You go through things, yeah, sure. Physical changes, emotional changes, spiritual changes, mental changes, right? Pretty sure that's all the changes that we got. But change in the terms of things that we'd like to do, goals that we have. And so we turn change into a goal, right? It becomes a goal. And what I've noticed, especially over the last few days, is that the reason why myself, and maybe this extends to other people, why I don't change, why I can't seem to change these habits, is because of the reason, the goal, the maybe the potential reward, what we're really going after, right? So for example, using the diet, which is a very, very popular one, right? Everybody could probably go on a diet to some degree, cut out something that hurts them or makes their body feel heavy or weird or bloated, right? Could be anything, right? There's this idea that if we could make the changes that we want, do the things that we logically know we should do, then we have this vision that if we get to that point, we stop doing all this and we get to that point, then we will be happy, and then everything will be fine and our life will be perfect. So we want to get to this goal, this change, which is supposed to make us feel better, right? And so we plan. We make plans about this change. We say, well, I'm going to set a schedule for when I can eat, what I can eat, right? And there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure that most people put on themselves to be perfect, to be better, right? So we want to be better. We want to be this version of ourselves that if we were this version, then we would have more respect. People would like us more. Our lives would be better. We'd have more money. We'd feel better. We'd be healthier. And it's a lot of pressure when you start breaking down what our expectations actually are around change, which is a very human thing to do. Animals, on the other hand, don't think about changing. They just do it, right? So a snake just sheds its skin. A caterpillar just turns into goes into a metamorphosis sort of period, and then it becomes a butterfly, right? Arby's becomes eventually diarrhea, right? I don't know if that's exactly the same thing, but you kind of get my point, is that when it comes to animals and things without a human mind, things just naturally progress and they change. There's no thinking. Things happen quicker, right? A caterpillar doesn't think, well, if I become a butterfly, then everybody will love me. It just does the thing that it needs to do. Humans, on the other hand, create expectations and goals and have a future vision around change, which ironically makes it impossible to actually change, even though we have all these amazing ideas about what we should do. And we know the most logical thing. Everybody knows, I think logically, the steps that they should take in order to change. And logically, we could even trace this sort of linear path that might say, well, if I do this, then this will happen. And if that happens, then I'll feel better. And that's a good thing, because if I feel better, then I can do more of these things, which will also make me feel better, which will help my life. But the more that you really go into it, the more pressure that it seems like. It just seems like you're creating this whole world that you need to fit into, a box that you need to place yourself inside. And when you're not in that box, which is the present moment because you're trying to change, then you feel shitty, right? So how many times have I or you come up with great plans to change, and maybe you do a day or two and then something happens and you're right back to where you started, right? Like I might go a few days eating really healthy, and then I have all these plans and goals, and I think, all right, well, this is pressure to get to this day and this week, and then it falls apart at some point. Maybe some bad news, maybe you just have an off day, or maybe you just say fuck it because you're feeling really good, and then it leads to a spiral. Anything can happen, and so often it does, right? And it's because of the plans. It's because of this effort, which, sort of to summarize or misquote Yoda from Star Wars, in Empire Strikes Back, great movie by the way. If you don't like Star Wars, you can just stop watching this, because who doesn't like Star Wars? In Empire Strikes Back, Yoda says to Luke Skywalker, something along the lines of there is no try, do, or do not, right? Something like that. It's probably reversed, but it's a quote that essentially is trying to say trying is useless. You shouldn't try to do anything. You're either going to do it or you're not going to do it. Trying is an effort that doesn't necessarily need to be there. Trying takes you out of the process, right? A snake doesn't try to shed its skin. If it tried to shed its skin, it would just probably fail, right? Which is so often the case with us humans. It just does the thing. It just changes. It doesn't try, right? If it's going to do it, it does it. And that's when action, right? Real, just process, the present moment starts to take place. So many times we're trying, and the trying always ends up feeling like we haven't moved an inch, right? Despite all the energy that is expended into the future, into what we know should happen and what we should look like. But all that pressure to get to essentially perfection means that in the present moment we feel shitty all the time. We feel like we're never good enough. We're not actually whole. Because how can someone with such clear imperfections and bad habits or whatever it is that we're trying to change, how can we be worthy of a new partner or money or a new job or a better body or a feeling, like a piece of contentment, which is what we're all trying to get. It's what we think these goals will bring us, right? Nobody wants to go on a diet because they just think like, oh, I have to because everyone else is. It's more or less anyway, the feeling like, well, I'll feel better, or I should do that because if I go on a diet, if I change some bad habit, then I'll be a better person and my life will be better. And it's all that pressure to become that version of ourselves that we ignore what's currently happening, which is life. There's already pressure. There's already so much to deal with that to me, it seems like the best method for actually changing, which of course to not try, but to remove the expectations, to remove the plans. So for example, I could sit here right now and tell you all the ways that I know the things that I should do tomorrow, all the things that I should do, right? And it goes something like, okay, we'll try to get a good amount of sleep, right? Okay, I'll try to get 8-9 hours. Okay, wake up, do some yoga. All right, I got work in the morning, so do some stretching, some yoga, take a shower, right? Okay, then got to go into work, got to do your work. Okay, then after that, do another job, right? Then I come back and then exercise. Okay, now make sure to eat vegetables. Don't pig out on chocolate and all this other stuff. And make sure you don't do that. And make sure you don't do this. And if you can, try to do this. And you're basically planning out an entire day because you think that's what would help you. Because if you have a plan, you have a goal, and if you have a goal, then things can move like this. But that's not how things work. Anybody who's tried to change know that change does not look like that. And it doesn't look like that, not because change is so amazingly difficult, but because we keep trying to plan it. We keep trying. But we don't need to, because right now I don't have to think about any of that stuff. I don't have to think about what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do anyway. I don't need to think about it now. We don't need our thoughts to carry us into tomorrow or next week or whenever. We don't actually need it because we're going to do whatever we're going to do anyway. It's like breathing, like it's going to happen regardless of our thought process around it. So when we plan out things, we plan out change, it often doesn't work. The opposite happens. And it's very hard to just shut off your mind towards that thing. But if we just wake up tomorrow with a blank slate and don't put any energy into what we should do, we're going to naturally feel anyway in the moment, maybe naturally inclined to do things that we would want to do anyway, that we would have planned to do, but we don't necessarily need to plan it. It takes the pressure off because our minds are just teenagers. Our ego is a teenager. That's when the ego starts to develop as a teenager, and all the ego really is saying when we know we want to change and we should, and these are the things we could do, the ego is kind of like, fuck you, I don't want to change. It's like a teenager. It doesn't want to do any of that stuff. And I can understand that. I don't like being told what to do. So constantly spending almost every hour of my life telling myself what to do, it's not pleasurable. It just ends up in a sort of constant inner war, a battle within myself. And it's because of that. Now, if we get out of our own way and we stop telling ourselves what to do, we're naturally going to do the thing that we want to do. It works. It really does. I felt better the last few days by simply just not telling myself that I need to do things. And as it turned out, I naturally felt like, oh, you know what, today I'll have a salad, or today I'll work out. And I don't revert back to some bad habits, but the times that I would force myself to do things the next day and follow all these regimens, by the end of the day, or maybe the day after, I'd be right back to smoking weed and having a bunch of chocolate and doing whatever it is that you know you really shouldn't do, but that you end up just doing anyway, right? That stuff. And it's that kind of attitude, that behavior, that I feel has really gotten in my way. And it doesn't allow me to change. It doesn't allow me to do the things that I would naturally want to do. But as soon as I remove the idea that I need to be a certain way, that I planning the expectation, everything just seems to flow into a space. So as soon as I get out of my own way, things essentially move a lot quicker. And they could also for you, for lots of different people. If we could just change our attitude about change, which sounds pithy and almost stupid, we might be able to better find a natural rhythm, just trusting ourselves to do what we want to do anyway. We don't need to think about what we want to do. You already know what you want to do. You already feel it. You already have an awareness of it. Constantly chattering about it in your brain isn't going to help. It just delays things. And you're really, especially if you have a personality like mine, which is a bit stubborn, you're going to end up resisting. You're going to resist a lot. Now, some people are able to just discipline themselves into change, and that's great, okay? But I'm an emotional person. I'm sensitive. I'm intuitive. I'm empathic. I'm not going to be like that. It's never worked for me. But what does work, at least better, is this removal of an expectation, this removal of should and have to.